What's up guys, Jacob2020 here, and today we're here to talk about why I believe A is the strongest character in Genshin. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Anyways, let's get right into the video. I've been power scaling Genshin Impact for about a year now. In fact, as of me recording this right now, it's been a complete year. Before I even started the channel, I saw people have the general consensus that A was the strongest character in Genshin Impact, and I myself kind of got that feeling as well, but I never truly understood why until I did research into the game and started feeling around to see how strong the characters in general tend to be. Now that a whole year has passed that I've been power scaling Genshin, this is what I have to say about the Raiden Shogun and her power. I want to put into perspective just how strong the Traveler was when he met the Raiden Shogun. So Tartag, he's one of the strongest characters in the game. He's one of the most skilled characters in the game. He's a better fighter than Senora, his superior. In fact, I believe he would be able to beat Senora in a fight easily. He can fight higher ranking Victoria Harbingers like the Knave, potentially even the Doctor, even at the time of Leeway. And Zhongli felt like he would need to get involved if Tartag became an issue again. Geo Traveler beat him badly. He had him on his knees, and by Tartag's own account, the Traveler was stronger than what Senora reported to him, meaning Tartag felt like he could handle Animal Traveler, but not Geo Traveler. The Traveler goes on to one-shot Osile, and then gets introduced to Adaptus Energy. Now, I have a theory that Adaptus Energy is really the power of a Descender given to them by an Archon. That right there is its own separate video, and I'll explain my reasoning there, but now we're talking about the Raiden Shogun. So the Traveler, he gets reintroduced to the power that he had at the start, so it's an extra buff on top of what he already had with Geo. He gains Electro, the fastest element in the game, and the second strongest element in the game, and then fights the Raiden Shogun, and depending on how you argue with cutscenes and stuff, she beats him with Engulfing Lightning. So this is base A or Raiden Shogun. Then the Traveler goes on to train with Yamiko. He gains the respect and support of Sengonomiya, the Kamisato clan, and a good chunk of the dead people that was killed because of the Vision Hunt decree. This all together caused the people to lose faith in A, and the Traveler was able to beat this nerfed A while being severely buffed by what I mentioned before, plus 99 vision, making him the strongest vision user, period. Keep in mind this Raiden Shogun, at the end in the cutscene, she was using Engulfing Lightning. So depending on how you argue with the cutscenes, the Traveler beat base A, but not Musou Ishine. And keep in mind the Musou Ishin not only provides a power buff once it's pulled, but it's also the preferred weapon that A uses for the Musou no Itotachi, the strongest sword style in all of Tevent, at least at the time of me recording this. I will touch on that a little bit later, the fighting style, because it's an extremely important factor that needs to be talked about when talking about A's fighting capabilities and strength, because it puts her on a completely different level because of her experience and expertise. Later on, A fights the Raiden Shogun for 500 years straight with no rest, no food, no water, no nothing. Technically, she doesn't need it because she's just energy, right? And the Shogun is just a puppet. But that shows that her energy supplies is inexhaustible. Then, once the Traveler meets up with the Raiden Shogun again, she unlocks the full power of the Musou Ishin, and she beats the Raiden Shogun in her Shadow Lord form. Infinite energy translates to infinite power. Becoming stronger than that means that she's at a higher level of infinity, and A was capable of beating this character who is at a higher level of infinity without her own Shadow Lord form being activated. In the Raiden Shogun's boss battle that you can normally get to, and not the cutscene, in order to beat the Shadow Lord form, you have to beat the shield off of her and then attack the base Raiden Shogun. Since we're looking at this like a cutscene, this would mean that A would have to beat the shield off of the Shogun and then proceed to beat the Shogun itself. Also, I have made a mistake in the past. I said that Final Calamity or the Shadow Lord form causes damage to the Raiden Shogun, which is why she can't keep it up. That was completely false. The reason why she enters that exhausted phase is because she was knocked out of the Shadow Lord form, not because the Shadow Lord form was intense on the body or Final Calamity was that taxing, which means A knocked the Raiden Shogun out of the Shadow Lord form to the point where it couldn't keep it up anymore and just conceded. So take all of what I just said and realize that A and the Raiden Shogun, they're two different people. They can exist at the same time. So that means that's two energy sources in one body. So this is the math that you would have to do in order to calculate how strong the Raiden Shogun is. So you would have to calculate A and the Raiden Shogun together times infinity. For the Musou Ishin, you have to multiply that times 100 to 1,000, and then for the Shadow Lord times 100 or 1,000. No character in the game is infinitely powerful besides A and the Raiden Shogun, and anyone who's wielding the Electro-Gnosis. In order for a character to replace A as the strongest character in the game, they would have to exceed infinity like she has. In my previous video, could the Power Archon replace A as the strongest character? I didn't bring up what I'm about to say here because I didn't know this fact until later on. Natlem is constantly battling the Abyss. You Google search what is an abyss, it'll probably say something like a bottomless pit. You can ask, okay, how big is a bottomless pit? The bottomless pit is infinite in size. It's never ending. Now let's talk about the Musou no Itachi. In between slashes with the Musou Ishin, A takes pauses to deliver precision strikes. How I interpret this is A using the properties of Electro to charge up her attacks periodically while mixing in sword slashes. This allows her to hit harder than what she normally can with the Musou Ishin. This is a practical way of fighting and a good use of Electro. It also tenses her body and increases the power of the next few attacks. Usually when you talk about a technique, you talk about its practicality. When the Musou no Itachi is mentioned, it's talking about its power. This is why in the description for the Musou no Itachi, it is described as an extremely powerful and legendary sword technique. Because the Musou Ishin is implied to be used with the Shadow Lord form, technically this fighting style can be used with the Shadow Lord form, making her even more deadlier than before. A can stop time with the Musou Ishin in the Shadow Lord form. She can drain energy possibly in base and in the Shadow Lord form. She can become intangible while attacking. She can teleport. She can create wormholes. She is resistant to being sealing and banishing, and how she's resistant to that is by summoning the Shadow Lord to the plane of Euthymia and then putting it back onto the battlefield. A can grow the Shadow Lord form to any size. And finally, the Musou Ishin itself, that is a delusion style buff. Because it has Mikoto's energy and will in it, and A can actively draw upon it for extra power, it can buff her from 100 to 1,000 times plus, making it the strongest delusion, so to speak, in the entire game. There are a few weaknesses that A does have, and that is the people of Inazuma have lost faith in her. In my previous video, I described Inazuma as a death trap. You literally can't go anywhere in Inazuma besides the main city without dying, and even then the shogunate could kill you. A has depression and is mentally compromised. I wouldn't say she's as crazy as the knave or worse the doctor, but I would say she's at least the third craziest. And as I stated in my previous video, can the Power Archon replace A as the strongest character in Genshin? If you're mentally compromised, that affects your power because your power becomes compromised. Think of the elements or the power in Genshin in general like a Green Lantern ring. If their willpower starts to suffer, for example, if someone injects Kyle Rayner with fear toxin, then that's going to interfere with the ring's power and it's going to depower the Green Lantern. The exact same thing is happening here. The thing is, she's not completely depowered. She's just nerfed. In spite of what I said with the people losing faith and her being mentally compromised, this only limits her power. It doesn't completely depower her. She's still the most powerful character in Genshin, even with all these limitations. And with that, I think I've proved my point, and I can just end the video right here. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe, and as always, have a wonderful day.